So hi everyone, slightly different video here. I thought I would actually do just a very bare bones tutorial on how to use DaVinci Resolve 16 for as an editing thing for your gameplay capture. So largely because people like Turkey were talking about maybe wanting to start doing some more edits, and so the good thing about DaVinci Resolve is that there is a free version and it should be plenty good enough for what you need to do for basic editing for stuff you're going to upload to YouTube. Now I've used DaVinci Resolve a bit for color grading stuff. I usually don't edit in it, but I thought I'd give it a crack and show you how it can go. So yeah, you can go to blackmagicdesign.com, and if you scroll down in the products, you'll find DaVinci Resolve, and you go in there and you should be able to scroll down to the bottom and hit this little download now button. Now we already have it installed, so we'll just run it now. Take a few seconds to boot up. It can be a little bit tricky to get your head around at the start, trying to figure out how it wants to work, but once you know kind of where to poke at it, it should be fairly straightforward. It's an easier program than it used to be once upon a time. You had to install databases and things like that, but now it's pretty straightforward. All right, so the first thing you're going to be presented with is projects you've done before. Now, if we I'll just go into an untitled project. It'll ask me to save it and stuff later. Now, the first thing you're going to be presented with is a whole bunch of how do I even bring stuff in. It's going to be confusing. There's really just tabs down the bottom that change kind of what mode you're in and let you do almost completely different things. So to edit YouTube videos, you pretty much want the media tab, you probably want the edit tab, and then you pretty much just want the deliver tab. That's pretty much all you're going to need. So I'm going to go down into media, and I actually have it set up for 2 monitors. So give me a second, I'll change it to do for 1 monitor. Alright, so doing it for 1 monitor makes it a little bit easier to see, because now you can actually see I've got drives and everything. And I'll just power between those two. Again, the interface would have changed slightly on these. This is the edit mode, and here's the deliver tab. But if I go back into media, I'm just going to browse to one of my drives. In fact, what I will do is I will drag and drop them. I'm just going to move that to the other monitor so you don't need to see me go through all the folders. But basically, I've got an MP4, and I'm just going to drag and drop it. You can browse through your directories wherever you know they are, but I'm just going to drag and drop because that will also work. It's going to ask me to change the frame rate of the project to match the clip, so I'm just going to say yes. And now I've got this little clip down here. This is an episode I just recorded of doing some stuff on The Long Dark. Cool thing is when you scroll over the thumbnails, it kind of shows you the stuff that's in the video. You can also scrub through up here, and that'll be playing a bunch of annoying desktop audio. You can have multiple clips in here, and that's fine. If you've got multiples, you can select them all. An easy way to get started is to actually come in, right click on the clip, go all the way to the top and say create timeline using selected clips. If you've got multiple, it will stack them. We will call this TLD back at it. Create that. And so now you can see I've got the original clip I brought in, and this one is now the edit. You can see it's got a little different icon in there, and that shows it's an edit. If you're having trouble understanding what they are, you can go into the detail thing here, and you can see now that one's an MP4, one's the actual clip. You can do it that way. That's fine. It's actually made a 4K edit. It won't actually matter. It will be displaying it at whatever res you've got the clips for. It will scale it, and you can output it something different. But I probably should change the clip properties of that, or the project properties. I think I've just come in after having a higher res project. So I'm actually just going to change that to a 1080p edit so it doesn't try and do things at a high res. You probably won't have those problems. It's probably good to just get back into the thumbnail mode. It's easy to see. Now, if I double click on this timeline, it will actually take me to the edit thing, or, I could actually just be going to the edit thing. Now, when you change, so it's showing me my clips I have imported into my project, but it won't show you can't get to clips you've got on your hard drive. You really have to bring clips into the project before it will let you use them. And if you had a different timeline edit, you could double click on it here and it would show you your edit. Now, this is my project here. I can scroll it like that. There'll be this little plus and minus thing for you to actually see the whole length of your timeline. So, like it's a 48-minute odd project. I can probably mute that somewhere, but I don't know how. There's probably a nice button somewhere. There we go. I'll mute both those tracks just for the moment, so when I scrub it's not going to sound weird. You'll notice it has a little time counter there. It will always start with 01. It's not going to tell you you've got an hour first. It just is the first hour. It's just the way time code works. So you can see how all that goes there. So for me I can actually do things like Alt and middle mouse to do that same zooming in and out. So if you don't see me zooming in and out there, just know that I'm probably doing some other little shortcuts. So what am I going to do? I think I mucked around at the start and had a bit of a false start on this, so I'm actually just going to trim off the front. Now I'm going to have to unmute those, and I'm going to have to zoom in a little bit. Had a little bit of a look on my Steam account before or did I have a false start? Oh, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Long Dark. Had a little bit of a look. I'm just going to pretend that that's how that works. Now I can do a couple of things. I can drag this to there to cut that clip, or there should be a bunch of tools up here. So there should be like a little blade edit mode. So if I mouse over here, it's doing a thing where it will snap to that line because snaps are turned on. There are little options that live up here. That'll probably be something like timeline snapping. You can turn those things off if it gets really annoying. There's shortcuts for it as well, like the N key. But I'm just going to click on the clip with that. Come back and grab that little arrow. Now here's a little tricky thing with this program. If I hit delete, it will move it and move everything up. I'll undo that. But if I hit backspace, it will just remove it. Why is this important? Sometimes you want to trim a clip but don't actually delete all the stuff in between. Sometimes you do. So it's just a good thing to know that if you're cutting things around to move somewhere else and you want to hit backspace and line it up yourself rather than let it do its job, that you might want to do that. I prefer to use backspace and manually move it so I don't get confused and accidentally get rid of stuff I don't want. So I'm also now going to come all the way to the end. This is a very basic edit. I'm not changing anything out of the middle. My little alt mouse is a little bit too brutal, so I actually am going to use that up there. I should be zooming the other way down, not up. All I really want to do is move my playback head to the back, but I can also slide this along and click here. So with my playback head there, I will zoom in quite far in there, and you can see that's where I stop talking, and I'm probably about to jump out of the menu. So instead of using the razor this time, I'm just going to drag that. You have to be a little bit careful because you do get slightly different icons. So one of those, sometimes you can have things that like change the speed and stuff like that. So you'll be careful about what icon you get. It probably actually just moves only this clip if I drag that and not the other ones with it. So that's probably what that little one does. But that's a very basic edit going on there. I don't think I need to do much more to this one. You might have to cut some stuff out of the middle of your own one, and you want to lay some other stuff over. If I had other clips, I could stack them on top. I can, fade between and all kinds of other stuff. But if you're just trimming stuff out, that should just be kind of all you need at this point. I will unmute that because I do want to make a clip out of this. So I need all my audio there, which should be all the game audio and me talking. But now with this edit basically done, all I really need to do is go over to Deliver tab. And it's going to present you now with a bunch of options here. Now, if you have multiple clips stacked, it's going to show you each one of the clips along the top here. And confusingly enough, it will potentially only deliver, it will only render out the stuff that is in between this gray bar here. It's kind of got like a timeline it wants to do. Now, because I've only got one clip, actually just to show you that, what I'm actually going to do in the edit is I'm just going to put a cut there without doing anything to it, but it'll make it make sense in the deliver tab. So now I have these 3 clips here. That is important because, oh man, it's so brutal in that zoom. I have these 3 things here. If my timeline was set to that, it's only going to render out what this little gray area is. And there's a few ways to achieve that. Like I can glove on this, I can say render this clip, and it automatically makes it be that. So because you can have a timeline where you've edited where you left all these clips at the back end, and you definitely don't want to be putting them in your output. So this is specifying what you're going to render. Now I can actually say mark in on that front one and mark out on the back one, and that's setting that timeline to make that whole thing. It's just a good thing to know that that's how it's going to work. Now with that selected, basically here's what how I'm going to specify as an output. I'll give this a name. Okay, outputting is a single clip. This is what you want to do if you want to export and edit. If you want to output individual clips to do other stuff with, which you really aren't going to want to do for YouTube, so just go single clip, because otherwise this will put each one of these cuts out to a separate file. So we've got single clip, we're going to do video, we'll set some settings in a minute, but for the moment I'm going to call it TLD back at it and actually use some capitalization this time. We'll stick in here for the moment. I'm going to make it a MP4, so the codecs H.264, that's fine. Frame rate's 30, quality, there should be a bit rate I should be able to set here. Maybe that's in advanced settings. There we go. I am actually going to restrict it to, now if I've got this right, for 1080p it wants 8 megabit. So I think I would definitely want to do that. I don't normally do export out of Resolve. This is my first time showing you guys doing this, at least for YouTube. I mean, I usually do it out of an Adobe product, but I'm not using that at the moment. That should be fine. I'll check that these settings are right, and if they're wrong, I'll come back and do a little bit of an edit. None of the other settings are going to be doing anything. It's really just about specifying the file and the size. Over in file, there's some stuff. I don't think anything is going to be relevant to anyone else. That's sort of fine. As long as I've told, oh, here's the thing, I need to tell it where I want to output to. I'm going to be putting mine to a specific drive where I output a bunch of stuff. YouTube, TLD, and I'll say there. So with that set, now I just hit this button to add it to a render queue. Puts it over here in the jobs, and basically I should be able to hit start render, and it's going to sit there. It's not too bad on the outputting for the rendering. It's saying it's going to be taking about 23 minutes, but it's going down faster than the time is counting down. And so yeah, you can see it start to be doing all that as an output. I'm not going to make everyone sit through this doing it frame by frame, but yeah, you can see how that's working out. I think the rest is pretty self-explanatory. When it's finished, it will be out in that directory, and you should be able to play it back and check it, and then upload it to YouTube as normal. So unless there's anything that I find out is wrong with some of my compression settings there, I think this will be the end of the video. Otherwise, I'll come back and post a little addendum on what I needed to figure out to make it right. Hopefully that helps a few of you get started with using DaVinci Resolve to output your long dark videos and whatnot. Well, we'll see you next time.